Well, we're starting out here on the Oregon coast, just north of Gold Beach, looking towards Port Orford. It's a beautiful morning. What the heck, take a quick stop here, stretch the legs real quick before we do the next section. Heading off to the Columbia Gorge. It's going to be a long drive, and see if we can't show you some of the sights along the way. This is such a beautiful, beautiful scene here. The sun is just coming up over the waves. Lovely, lovely fall morning here on the coast. You can see that sea mist layer. The zoom on this phone is not very good, but still, those sea stacks. Oh, stunning stuff. There's more to see. Oregon's a pretty country, so got pretty country, so I'm going to show you some of it on the way through. And of course, what drive up the coast would be complete without driving past and at least taking a gander at the prehistoric gardens. A T-Rex! Look out! Everybody run! Coming here along the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway, Humbug Mountain. Definitely some corners you gotta watch out for. They're pretty treacherous and they will sneak up on you. When they say slow, they mean slow. But people still come just barreling through here in this little canyon. First you pass by the day use area, and a lot of people like to stay at the campground up here, but it's just right next to the highway and it's not exactly, you know, my kind of thing. So here we get into this tight canyon section. It's a little tricky, especially when it gets wet. It's deceptive. You can really go skidding around if you're not careful on some of these tight corners, and I see people just come flying through here. They see 45 and they go, oh, that means 65. Tires howling, everything inside the car sliding around. You're going, whoa. Okay. Perhaps we could go a little bit more gently around these corners and enjoy the scenery. There's a beautiful little creek right next to the road here. All these ferns clinging to the canyon walls. It's a gorgeous little thing, and so, you know, you kind of say, why rush through it? And of course, what trip from Bandon to I-5 over by Roseburg would be complete if you didn't stop off and see the Sandy Creek Bridge? Who isn't a sucker for a cool old covered bridge? If you can see the sign, built 1921, that means this is 100 years old and still standing. And if you can see the size of the timbers they used to build it, my goodness, no wonder it's still up. Look at the size of that thing. That's got to be like a 12 by 12 beam up there. Look at that. Amazing. Nice sturdy decking. And of course, no shortage of graffiti. Kind of a cool little thing. Oh, it looks like this platform's falling off into the creek here. Uh-oh. Well, I'd say there's a reason why it's boarded off, because you might fall in. It's just right next to the highway over Sandy Creek. And there's a place to pull off, go to the bathroom, and check out some old school architecture, the way they used to build stuff. And the way they used to build it, built to last. 100 years, still standing. And it's right off the highway, so you can stop off, take a rest, and enjoy 100 years of cool history. Pretty neat. One of the sights along the way, this long journey from the coast up to the gorge that I'm taking. Well, on to the next. The doldrums of Interstate 5 driving between Eugene and Portland. Long, straight, flat, nothing. Just you and the cars. The mountains are so far away, there's nothing to see. It's just kind of empty farmland. A lot of grass seed being grown. But unlike the video where I was talking about keeping your mind sort of occupied while you're driving out in the southeastern Oregon desert, there's nothing to pay attention to other than keeping it between, you know, at least one of the sets of lines. Here you have to keep your wits about you, because people come out of nowhere. Suddenly there's a truck right next to you, and 1 second you looked away and 90 miles an hour comes by. You get packs of trucks, packs of cars. It can be, you know, kind of, you know, hand-to-hand combat almost out here on the pavement. And so, as opposed to thinking about ancient people thousands of years ago out in the desert, here we have to focus on what is here right now in front of me, like the cars coming around me, the vehicle in front of me, slow-moving vehicles that you have to navigate around, passing safely and courteously. Obviously, when there's a bunch of people coming up behind me, I'm certainly not going to just pull out in front of them and go 65 when they're trying to go 75. You know, that's awfully rude. They may be speeding, but I don't really have the right to just slow them down. I'm not the cop of the road. Just trying to make sure my own vehicle is as safe and courteous as it can possibly be. And I guess that's the most I can ask of anybody else. The golden rule. I'm driving towards everybody else the way I would like everybody else to drive towards me. And of course, if you're going through the noisy Portland, dealing with nasty traffic, might as well stop off and take in the nice view of Mount Hood and Willamette Falls from this beautiful little viewpoint. You get a little slot of view through the trees here, but you can still see it. Depending on the season, there's more water coming over here than any other waterfall in America other than Niagara. So the second largest in terms of flow, and once a lamprey fishery. The lamprey used to just cover those rocks down there and the native peoples would fish them. No bones. Nice fatty oily fish, good for surviving cold winters. Certainly get them here in the Pacific Northwest, but it's kind of cool to be able to look out there and also see Mount Hood directly above the falls. But it's also, you know, next to the highway, Highway 205. But I needed a break from the traffic. It's been crazy since Salem, even though it's Saturday. So I thought, what the heck, I'll take a peek at the falls. Haven't seen that in a long time. I never stop here. I'm always trying to get through Portland as fast as possible. Well, we did it. We survived Portland, and we're entering the Columbia River Gorge. Doesn't look like much of a gorge yet. We've got to get past Crown Point, and then it starts looking gorgy. And Crown Point is way up there. You can barely even just now start to see it. I'm probably just going to pass right on through. Hopefully, we'll see you on the other side, completely unscathed. If not, a little bit better for it. Oh, Coyote Wall is just magnificent. Look at that thing. Huge slab of basalt that's uplifted. Out here in the east end of the gorge, there's not a lot of trees, so you do get to actually kind of spy it for a while, and of course you get to see just after it the sort of labyrinthine jumble of rocks over there, and they actually do call that the labyrinth, and you can hike around in there, and there's a sort of a spot you can get up on top of that rock climbers like to use for practice. There's sort of permanent anchor spots, and up on top of that spot I took you in some snowy conditions to taste test some low sugar protein bars. So this was the highway that you were looking at, if you remember that video, or if you happen to pull it up. But look at that view looking up the wall, like, wow, that's so cool. You can hike straight up that if you want. It's wide open, there's trails that go right up it. You can almost just make out the trail. It's magnificent. Well, we're exiting the Columbia Gorge out on the east end. You can tell because there's starting to be fewer and fewer sort of basalt shelves. And you might also notice a very distinctive lack of trees. Those are the Columbia Hills. And across from the city of the Dalles on the Washington side are some grasslands that you won't find anywhere else in the entire world. Very rare open grasslands. Very unique environment up there. If you go across from the Dalles through the town of Dallesport and then up into the hills, you can actually check them out, the Washington State parks. And it's really interesting to be out in that sort of a landscape where there's nothing but grass. We're here approaching the historic native village of Celilo. And of course, there's the old railroad bridge just downstream from where the falls, well, still are technically, but used to be when they flooded the gorge here after building the Dalles Dam in the 50s. The falls fell silent, and there's some pretty sad stories of hearing native peoples talk about that. Going to bed one night, hearing the falls that had always been there their whole lives, and then the next morning there was nothing. I can't imagine how soul-crushing that must have been. You know, now you just look out there and it's a lake. And there should be, you know, where you're looking now, there should be a magnificent set of falls with Native peoples on their platforms running dip nets. According to the Army Corps of Engineers, the soundings they've done of the bottom show that the falls are technically still there. The rock formations are still there, so if the dam was removed, the falls would return. And so they're not gone. They're just, there's just a lot of water in the way of what's out there right now, and that's where they would be. See the vehicle's shadow here as the sun sets on us, going through the wheat country and the wind towers of Sherman County in north central Oregon. You can probably spot a couple of brand new wind towers just right out there. I don't know if you can quite see them. Yeah, there they are. Those are brand new. I don't even think they're in operation yet. Just got put in, I think, within the last month. And there's already hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of them out here. And just a few more to add into the renewables. And oh, look at that. There's a few stumps over there of some new ones that are about to get put in. Off to my right, there's some new ones as well. So there's still a big crane over there by them. Just about make up the little stumps up there, maybe. Yeah. There they are. Gonna be wind towers there too. Big ones, it looks like. Every other year this field will be growing wheat, and every year from now on they'll be generating wind power, and it's pretty cool to see the land not just growing grain but generating power too. There's so much wind out here, there's no reason not to do it. Just about to the end of the journey here. Gonna find a little place to stop off here in north central Oregon where I know I can have some peace and quiet and an affordable place to stay just for a couple nights. It's been a heck of a long journey out here.